As it's been a while since I've covered an article, and T-Bing has very kindly furnished me with 3, although this was not one of them, I figured I'd go through each of those in turn, starting with the one I found, which was actually a sublink on one of the other articles that she sent me. This one being from the Mary Claire website. Yay. Go subscribe to T-Bing, by the way. This article is on mansplaining, and a little Twitter trend that developed after one tweet was sent out by a very angry black woman. So let's get started. Women are taking to Twitter to describe their most frustrating encounters with mansplainers. Prepare to have your patience tested. Thank you so much, Mary Claire, for the trigger warning. It is very much appreciated. Tracy Clayton, co-host of BuzzFeed's hit podcast Another Round, was recently riding in a Lyft when the driver would not stop explaining to her the meaning of terminal. I bet some of you are listening and thinking, Megan's going to pounce on the BuzzFeed part. I'm not. I'm simply going to indicate an inconsistency. If a man is explaining now, why isn't it called mansplaining like in the title? As in an airport terminal. Naturally, Clayton was really freaking irritated by this because, as an avid traveller, she is quite familiar with how airports function. As I have ridden in taxis many, many times, I am an expert on them, and therefore can tell you with my hand on heart, they are very talkative. And it's a good thing, it makes the journey go faster. Even when I already know something, I'm quite happy to let them speak because time flies. Now, in the instance you are talking about the airport terminals, all this does is show how short-tempered you are. And rather than simply finally get a word in edgeways and tell the cabbie you already know this, or just look at your phone because eventually he'll cotton on, you decided to go to Twitter under the guise of accusing men of mansplaining, or just shut up stupid little beta males who think that this is a valid way of criticizing them when they explain something. So she asked women to share the most infuriating things that they have been mansplained to them, and an amazing conversation took off on Twitter. Yes, and we are going to be going through each and every one of those that you share on this article because some of them are hilarious. The sampling of responses below demonstrate just how rampant mansplaining is and that we can fight back against it together. Just before we get into that though, I'm going to read the 2 tweets that got the ball rolling to begin with. My fucking Lyft driver keeps explaining to me what a goddamn airport terminal is, and I'm going to flip. Trash-ass Delta didn't include the terminal in my flight info, so I had to look it up, and it took a while because they operate in 3 different terms. He's giving me tips I don't need, and I keep telling him I fly several times a month. This is my 3rd flight in as many weeks. Women. What's the most infuriating thing you've had explained to you? Okay, it was 4 tweets, but 2 threads, so I'm going to go with that. Now, just before we get into those tweets, I'm getting a bit peckish now, and I want to draw this out with a nice short sandwich video from a sandwich gentleman's gentleman. Oh, drunken uncle, I'd like my sandwich, please.
All right then, Moisty. I tried to make you a sandwich, mate, but well, I ain't got a body, you know. So I got you a Tesco meal deal. You got a BLT, some salt and vinegar crisps, and some fucking coconut water because they ran out of Oasis. And they wanted 5p for a bag, but I told them to go fuck. Enjoy.
I'd be lying if I said it wasn't one of the better sandwiches I've received. Coconut water, though. Please subscribe to Drunken Uncle. His channel link is below. He's very funny. Now let's dive into some of these golden tweets. A pharmacist, man, told me I was choosing the wrong kind of painkillers for my cramps, so I asked him what he takes for his. Sick burn, bro. Now aside from you knowing what your own body can tolerate, do tell me this. How does a pharmacist become a pharmacist? What do they have to do that you couldn't do to get to that particular job that makes them an expert in drug use? Do me a favour and tell me when you work it out, because I almost became a pharmacist. Turns out when I was studying there's a fork in the road, go down organic chemistry or pharmacy. Pharmacy is so much more complex. I could have been Heisenberg, but better, with tentacles, yes. Periods. by a medical student who insisted women lost half a teaspoonful of blood per period and no more. And I am so glad that the medical student is only a medical student. This particular level of stupidity, though, surely can't be pigeonholed with mansplaining, can it? Because this type of stupidity isn't exclusive to men. Just because men don't bleed, that is. Well, they don't have a menstrual cycle anyway. Men still have their own type of period, though. Last week, a man took time to school me on how I should and should not respond to demeaning sexist attacks. I was ever so grateful. Yeah, how dare you tell that vapid cunt how to deal with harassment on the internet? Since men and women can fall prey to the dreaded internet harassments, it would surely also fall under the bracket of explaining when anyone tells you, helps you, informs you, talks to you about internet harassment and that damn bullying that comes from people expressing themselves in a way that is negative towards you, all the while hiding behind an animal avatar in a suit. See, I'm exempt right now. Yeah, thank you, Christina. The First Amendment by a rando, even though I told him I work at a First Amendment law firm. Yeah, I can't do much to refute this, because the man in question is just a rando. The situation, the circumstance, nothing, and this actually leads on to the wider discussion of how can you truly describe mansplaining or the events surrounding the mansplaining accurately without it being easily taken out of context with 100 and however many bloody characters Twitter gives you. You see this all the time on Twitter with some of your favourite content creators arguing over the smallest things like context, nuance on a tweet. The most prolific being Spineless Foreskin, who makes me laugh so much. I love watching him fight everyone. It's just brilliant. Honestly, you're amazing, mate. Keep doing it. It's golden. What real disability was and how I should feel when I am disabled and working in accessibility. There are some that believe the only types of disability that truly exist are physical, the ones you can see, like a loss of limb. When you hear someone got PTSD from Tumblr, everyone laughs. Even the people who use Tumblr, they're like, yeah, someone's going to get away with that, and the rest of the world's going to laugh at us. But it's okay, because we're the real victims. Now, as I earlier indicated, you can't really get the full context with 140 odd characters, so we don't know if the person, the rando in question, was themselves disabled, and whether they were arguing from a position of, I'm disabled, not this fucking idiot with some psychological issue that's not real. Because there are some people who are narrow-minded in that way. I'm not trying to defend that kind of narrow-mindedness, I'm just pointing it out. I'm also pointing it out because being narrow-minded isn't exclusive to men explaining something. From what I've seen, narrow-mindedness seems to fall under the bracket of people without common sense. Vocal gravitas, so my voice matches the content, in a letter about my show which I write, host, and created. It's a shame you didn't include a picture of the letter you received. Now, just because you wrote, host, and created a show doesn't mean you understand vocal gravitas. It just means you write, host, and created a show. It also doesn't mean the show's successful. The plot of Twin Peaks after I said Twin Peaks is one of my favourite shows. You don't suppose the gentleman who was talking to you about the plot of Twin Peaks was doing it because he wanted to spark up a conversation with you, now do you? BDSM. 10 years of reading, reflection, and experience mean nothing to a guy who tied his girlfriend up in college that one time. Just think, if that gentleman had done it to his girlfriend at university over the last 3 years, he would have gone to prison for sexual assault. She could have revoked consent now and he'd be in prison. That's the reason there was black mold growing my showers, because women are more damp than guys. That's not mansplaining. That's a very crappy joke about how dry women, are not good women. We like our women moist. How and why catcalling is flattering, not harassment. How a circumstance-based event, which is based on an individual in a particular circumstance, not all women being catcalled, because let's face it, everyone experiences it differently. And not just experiences it, but also the reaction from the men. And let's not forget here also, men can fall victim to being catcalled as well. Something which I believe Henry Cavill pointed out, with him being catcalled, and he didn't really like it. So much so that Henry Cavill pointed out there is a double standard with regards to catcalling, i.e. men it's fine to be on the receiving end of, women bad no matter what the guy says. Even if it's something as charming as, fit bird, get your tits out for the lads. What's wrong with that? It's not harassment, just wants to see your knockers. About twice a year I'll post about being stuck writing and someone will respond with, try writing a book. I've written 2. Where's the mansplaining? You put something on Twitter, someone noticed, they made a snarky comment. That's not mansplaining, that's Twitter. The difference between a screw and a nail in my own hardware store. Ah, but has he tried asking you for the non-reflective mirror, the glass nails, and maybe even a long wait? Dude in workshop tried to tell me my description of orgasm was gratuitous because women's orgasms don't work like that. Can you please tweet to me what your description of orgasm is, because I'd like to know why he thought it was gratuitous. I would also like to know how this falls under the bracket of mansplaining, as we've already ascertained mansplaining is just another way to silence another opposing view. Yes, okay, he cannot experience an orgasm like you do, if you do at all, but that does not mean what he's done is mansplain, and that doesn't mean you have to go to Twitter to get so butthurt about it that you quote gratuitous. I mean, if it was so important to you, you could do what other retards do. You write it all down in a notepad, you print screen that, and you upload that as an image, so we can at least see your description and what he said. Give us a quote. That's all the tweets I can be bothered to go through. Thank you all for listening.